away now!
I didn't do this.
Put your hands up, now!
The Taken franchise turned Liam Neeson into an unexpected action star, but could he return for Taken 4? Before taking on the role of Bryan Mills, Neeson was mostly known for playing wise mentors or fatherly figures in movies like Kingdom of Heaven and Batman Begins. But Taken flipped the script, casting him as a retired CIA agent who goes full-on ruthless to save his daughter from a human trafficking ring in Paris. The film's simple but intense premise, combined with Neeson's commanding presence, made it a surprise hit. He returned for Taken 2, where the tables turned. This time he was the one taken, and his daughter had to step up. Despite saying that would be the end, Neeson came back for Taken 3, where Bryan had to clear his name after being framed for his ex-wife's murder. So, what about Taken 4? Let's dive into everything we know. First off, if you're not familiar with the Taken franchise, let me give you a quick rundown. It's a series of action-packed films that kicked off in 2008, created by Luc Besson and Robert Mark Kamen. While all three movies feature Liam Neeson as Bryan Mills, a retired CIA operative with a very particular set of skills, they've had varying levels of success. The first movie was a massive hit with audiences, raking in big numbers at the box office despite mixed reviews from critics. The franchise as a whole has pulled in over $929 million worldwide, but with each new installment, the critical reception has taken a hit. There was even a prequel TV series in 2017 starring Clive Standen as a younger Bryan Mills, but it struggled to keep an audience and was ultimately canceled after 2 seasons. Now, when it comes to Taken 4, nothing has been officially confirmed. But let's be honest. The Taken series is flexible enough that a 4th film could go in any direction. Taken 3 wrapped up Bryan's story on a relatively satisfying note, with him choosing to arrest Stuart rather than kill him, which showed some growth on his part. It felt like a solid ending, but not necessarily the kind of final chapter that shuts the door on future sequels. There's still plenty of room for Bryan to be thrown back into action, whether it's a new crisis pulling him in, or the series going back to its roots with another high-stakes rescue mission. That being said, if Neeson is truly done with the role, Taken 4 could go a different route. The franchise has already tried expanding beyond him with the TV series, where Standen took over as a younger Bryan Mills, exploring his early CIA days and his quest for revenge over his sister's murder. The show initially had solid ratings, but as the first season went on, viewership started dropping. In an attempt to fix things, the second season brought in a new showrunner and essentially rebooted the series, keeping only Standen and Jennifer Beals in the cast. But even with these changes, ratings kept declining, and the show was ultimately scrapped. This tells us something important. Fans just aren't interested in the Taken universe without Neeson. No matter how much they tweak the formula, the franchise's success seems directly tied to his presence. So if Taken 4 happens, the big question isn't just what the story would be, it's whether Neeson is willing to step back into the role that made him an action legend. On the flip side, there's some exciting news for action fans. Jason Statham is finally stepping into a role that feels like a natural fit for him, and it's one that has been long rumored to be connected to the Taken franchise. While Statham isn't officially joining Taken, his upcoming project, A Working Man, is about as close as it gets. This film, directed by David Ayer, is an adaptation of Chuck Dixon's novel Levon's Trade and follows a building contractor who taps into his covert skills when his boss's daughter is kidnapped by a dangerous criminal organization. If that premise sounds familiar, it's because A Working Man is essentially Taken, but with Jason Statham leading the charge. David Ayer, the filmmaker behind Fury and The Beekeeper, has built a reputation for crafting gritty, action-packed movies filled with intense plots and high stakes. With Statham on board, there's little doubt that A Working Man will lean into that darker, more brutal side of the action genre. Adding to the excitement, Statham will also reunite with Sylvester Stallone, bringing together two of the biggest action stars for what promises to be a hard-hitting adaptation of this acclaimed story. Given Ayer's track record and Statham's signature action style, A Working Man could be the perfect spiritual successor to Taken, especially if Neeson is officially done with the role of Bryan Mills. The similarities between A Working Man and Taken are impossible to ignore. Both films revolve around a central character whose life is thrown into chaos when a young woman is kidnapped. forcing him to unleash his lethal set of skills to bring her home. While Bryan Mills' motivation in Taken was deeply personal, rescuing his own daughter, Statham's character in A Working Man is driven by a sense of duty to his boss. It's a small difference, but at its core the premise remains the same. A highly skilled but seemingly ordinary man is pushed to his limits to take down a criminal organization. This kind of storyline has been a staple in the action game ever since Taken set the standard back in 2008. The film's success led to an entire subgenre of action movies where veteran heroes take on relentless missions of revenge or rescue. Interestingly, despite Statham's extensive history in the action world, he's mostly stayed away from this Taken-style formula, focusing instead on bigger ensemble-driven franchises like Fast and Furious and The Expendables. However, A Working Man looks like the perfect opportunity for him to finally step into this type of role, and given his skill set, it's surprising that it's taken this long. What makes A Working Man even more intriguing is that Ayer's adaptation isn't a direct retelling of Levon's trade. The trailer has already hinted at several key changes, including making Statham's character much more aggressive and personally invested in the mission. In Dixon's novel, the protagonist is reluctant to get involved in this criminal world again, but Ayer's version appears to embrace the action-driven intensity more in line with Taken. While purists of the book might take issue with these changes, they actually make A Working Man feel even closer to Taken, which is likely the goal. Of course, this direction makes perfect sense when looking at Statham's recent career choices. His latest films, from Wrath of Man to The Beekeeper, have all followed a similar blueprint. He plays a seemingly regular guy with a mysterious past, who eventually reveals himself to be a one-man wrecking crew. The pattern has worked incredibly well for him at the box office, proving that audiences love watching Statham go from an unassuming everyman to an unstoppable force of nature. That said, while this formula has been a winning one for Statham, A Working Man will need to find a way to differentiate itself from his previous roles. If the film plays out just like another version of Wrath of Man or The Beekeeper, it runs the risk of feeling repetitive. However, with Ayer at the helm and Stallone joining the cast, there's a strong chance that this film will bring something fresh to the table. The real question is whether A Working Man will be able to stand on its own or if it will feel just like another Taken knockoff. Regardless, this project proves one thing: the Taken formula is still alive and well, even if Neeson himself isn't involved. While Taken 4 remains uncertain, A Working Man could be the next best thing, especially for those who've always wanted to see Jason Statham in a role like this. If the film succeeds, it might even open the door for more films in this vein, possibly making Statham the new face of this particular brand of action thriller. For now, though, all eyes are on A Working Man to see if it can truly capture the magic that made Taken such a massive success. And that's that for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.